Welcome to History Without Sleep. Tonight, we travel deep into the heart of the American Midwest, into wide plains, forming rivers, frozen winters, booming settlements, and the quiet but powerful rise of county governments that shaped entire regions. If you love history told with truth, detail, accuracy, and long immersive storytelling, then you're in the right place. Settle in. This journey is long. It is rich. It is real. Welcome to another historical deep dive, without sleep. Before the Midwest became the structured, county-divided land we know today, it was a massive, undefined frontier. Boundaries were vague. Settlements were isolated. Travelers relied on rivers rather than roads. Authority was fluid, sometimes in the hands of military officers, sometimes territorial governors, sometimes simply strong local settlers. Indigenous nations such as the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Sioux, Fox, Sauk, Shawnee, Miami, Kickapoo, and Ho-Chunk controlled enormous territories. Their governance systems were sophisticated: councils, clan-based leadership, intertribal diplomacy. But these systems did not align with the European idea of fixed administrative units. To Americans entering the region, the Midwest looked like a canvas waiting for counties. To indigenous nations, it was a homeland they governed collectively for generations. What would eventually become county government began not with buildings or clerks, but with one simple need: administrative order. Frontier settlers needed courts, land records, taxation, local defense, and methods to resolve disputes. Without counties, the Midwest had none. And so the movement toward counties began. In 1787, the United States took its first major step toward organizing the Midwest with the Northwest Ordinance. This single document shaped the entire future of county governance. It created the Northwest Territory, which later became Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, part of Minnesota. The ordinance offered a three-stage path from territory to statehood, and it required local administration at each stage. That meant counties had to exist. At first, the territories were controlled by governors appointed by Congress. They had immense powers: judicial, legislative, executive. But settlers demanded more local control, insisting that vast distances and growing populations required smaller administrative units. Thus the county was born, not all at once, but piece by piece. Ohio created its first counties in the 1790s. Indiana followed. Illinois created counties even before having enough towns to staff them. By the early 1800s, the Midwest was becoming a patchwork of county lines. Every county line carried a story of population, migration, politics, indigenous displacement, and economic ambition. The foundation of Midwest county government is deeply connected to surveying, especially the Public Land Survey System, PLSS. This system divided land into 6-mile by 6-mile townships, 36 square-mile sections, smaller lots for settlers. County lines often followed these survey lines, creating the square, grid-like shapes still visible from airplane windows today. Surveyors were the quiet architects of local government. They carried chains, compasses, notebooks, and worked across wild terrain. They carved order into wilderness. Many early counties were huge, some hundreds of miles wide. Because populations were too small to justify tighter administration. As settlers arrived, counties split, resplit, and reshaped again. Early county seats were chosen based on proximity to rivers, central location, local influence, donations of land, political maneuvering. A county seat was more than a location, it was a source of power. Where the courthouse went, economic growth followed. And so counties fought, quietly but fiercely, for that control. By the mid-1800s, the Midwest had enough settlers to form established administrative systems. County government took on recognizable structures. 1. County commissioners or supervisors, managing budgets, infrastructure, and local rules. 2. County sheriff, enforcing law in vast rural spaces. 3. County clerk, recording births, marriages, deeds, taxes. 4. Treasurer and auditor, managing public funds. 5. County courts, handling disputes, probate, criminal cases. Interestingly, many counties had more administrative authority than towns or cities. In frontier areas, the county was the government. Roads, taxes, property records, schools, even militia organization were county responsibilities. Midwestern counties became the backbone of local governance, ensuring settlers had structure, law, and stability. But behind the scenes, counties were also political playgrounds. County positions were often patronage-based. Powerful families shaped county decisions for decades. Economic ambitions often drove boundary changes. The evolution of county government was not only administrative, it was deeply human. The Midwest experienced explosive population growth between 1840 and 1880. Millions arrived from Germany, Ireland, Scandinavia, the British Isles, Eastern Europe, the American East Coast. This changed everything. Counties had to expand services. Schools, roads, public health systems, poorhouses and social safety nets, agricultural inspection, new townships and municipalities, law enforcement expansion. Immigrants brought political energy. German communities sought representation. Scandinavian settlers created tight-knit rural districts. Irish immigrants shaped city-county politics, especially in places like Chicago and Milwaukee. This forced counties to adapt, sometimes peacefully, sometimes through political conflict. These decades reshaped county government from small frontier management units into full-service administrative bodies. By the late 1800s, Midwest counties wanted to project confidence, authority, stability, and sophistication. Their chosen symbol? The county courthouse. Massive stone structures rose in towns across the Midwest: Romanesque, Gothic, Beaux-Arts, Neoclassical. These buildings became landmarks of local identity. Inside these buildings, judges settled disputes, clerks recorded land transfers, commissioners debated budgets, supervisors levied taxes, citizens interacted with government daily. Courthouses were community centers as much as legal hubs. The rise of these buildings signaled a new era. The Midwest was no longer a frontier. It was a region of mature local governance. After the Civil War, the Midwest became America's agricultural engine. Counties suddenly carried enormous new responsibilities. Maintaining rural roads for wagons, then automobiles. Managing agricultural extension services. Recording explosive real estate activity. Supporting grain storage regulation. Handling drainage districts and farmland zoning. Building bridges across rivers and creeks. Funding early public schools. What makes this era crucial is that counties became problem-solving institutions, not just record keepers. Farmers needed reliable roads to bring their grain to market. Railroads needed bridges and rights-of-way approved. Settlers required accurate land records to avoid disputes. Small towns demanded school districts. A single muddy road could affect entire agricultural output. A poorly surveyed drainage ditch could flood hundreds of acres. County governments were suddenly held responsible for the region's prosperity. As agricultural technology advanced, steel plows, mechanical harvesters, steam-powered threshers, counties had to rethink land use, taxation, and rural infrastructure at a scale never seen before. This era was the administrative revolution that defined the Midwest. Reliable transportation is the backbone of any local government. By 1890, the Midwest faced a major crisis. Many county roads were nearly impassable after rain. Farm wagons sank in mud. Mail took days to travel short distances. Schools saw low attendance because children couldn't reach them. Local economies stalled. This gave birth to the Good Roads movement, a national push to modernize rural transportation. Cyclists started it, farmers expanded it, and county governments ultimately adopted it. The key transformation was the creation of the county engineer, a trained expert responsible for planning, grading, building, and maintaining modern road systems. Counties began introducing gravel, crushed stone, and later pavement, building concrete bridges instead of wooden ones, surveying new routes using modern equipment, designing standardized road grids, improving mail delivery routes, coordinating with state highway departments. County governments became engineering organizations, not just political ones. The Midwest, flat, open, and expansive, was the perfect canvas for modern road building. By 1910, thousands of miles of improved roads began tying the region together, boosting trade, communication, and education. County governments had entered a new era of technical sophistication. As counties modernized, their courthouses became more than administrative centers. They evolved into cultural symbols, visible proof of community pride. Courthouses hosted public debates, farmer meetings, elections, celebrations, parades, legal trials, community gatherings. Architecture reflected local ambition. Counties hired top architects to design monumental structures with clock towers, marble interiors, ornate courtrooms, grand rotundas, decorative murals, pressed-in ceilings, stained glass windows. These buildings didn't just hold records, they told a story. They showed that the Midwest had arrived, modern, confident, and capable. Inside, county officials handled everything from criminal justice to marriage licenses. Every life event passed through those doors: birth, ownership, schooling, roads, elections. To understand a Midwest county in the early 20th century is to understand a courthouse. It was a temple of local democracy. Not all county evolution was idealistic or purely administrative. The late 1800s and early 1900s saw the rise of political machines, networks of patronage, favors, and influence. Counties became power bases for local political bosses who controlled sheriff appointments, road contracts, courthouse jobs, tax assessments, voter mobilization, public works spending. In some counties, families held county offices for generations. In others, major political parties dominated every election through tight organization. Immigrant communities also formed political networks. German, Polish, Scandinavian, and Irish groups built their own organizations, fighting for representation and resources. This era was a blend of progress and corruption. Roads improved, but contracts sometimes favored insiders. Courthouses were beautiful, but budgets were rarely transparent. Elections expanded, but voter intimidation sometimes persisted. Yet, political machines, good or bad, forced counties to become administrative power players, managing budgets larger than many small nations. It was messy. It was imperfect. But it shaped the Midwest forever. The progressive era swept through America with calls for transparency, efficiency, professionalism, anti-corruption measures, civil service reforms, scientific management. Midwestern counties were in the spotlight. Reformers demanded merit-based hiring instead of political favoritism, standardized budgeting, public accountability, government audits, clear separation between legislative and administrative roles, stronger public health departments, county hospitals and charity oversight, modern record-keeping. County clerks began using new filing systems. Treasurers adopted standardized accounting. Sheriffs used formal arrest procedures. Courts required better documentation. The biggest change was the push toward professional administrators, individuals trained in public management who could run counties efficiently. The Midwest responded quickly, especially in states like Wisconsin, Ohio, and Minnesota, which became national models for local government reform. This era turned county government into a professional institution, less political, more systematic. It set the foundation for everything counties do today. Public health crises pushed county governments into an entirely new role. The Midwest faced smallpox outbreaks, typhoid fever, tuberculosis, influenza, especially the devastating 1918 pandemic, unsafe water supplies, waste disposal issues, poor sanitation in rural areas. States realized that towns were too small and villages too isolated to manage major health issues. So counties stepped in. County public health departments emerged, responsible for vaccination programs, disease tracking, rural health inspections, school health services, hospital oversight, water testing, health education, burial regulations. The 1918 influenza pandemic was a turning point. County health officers issued quarantines, closed schools, restricted travel, and coordinated emergency care. The result? County governments became public health guardians, a role they still play. This expanded their identity from administrators to protectors of life. No era tested Midwest counties more than the Great Depression. Unemployment skyrocketed. Farms collapsed. Banks failed. Property values crashed, cutting county tax revenue to nearly nothing. Counties faced overwhelming pressure. Relief distribution, welfare programs, foreclosure management, homeless support, unpaid taxes, massive demand for public works, coordination with New Deal agencies. Some counties nearly collapsed under debt. Others closed services. But many adapted through federal programs. Works Progress Administration, WPA. Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC. Agricultural Adjustment Administration, AAA. These programs work directly with county governments, strengthening administrative capacity and building roads, bridges, parks, county buildings, soil conservation districts. The Depression reshaped county government into a social service institution, a role it continued to expand in the decades ahead. World War II reshaped the Midwest in ways deeper than numbers or military statistics. It transformed county governments into centers of coordination, resource management, and home front mobilization. County courthouses became hubs for war bond drives, military draft boards, rationing and coupon distribution, civil defense planning, victory garden promotion, scrap metal and rubber collection, registration for women entering wartime industries, managing shortages of fuel, tires, sugar, flour, and coffee. County commissioners worked with federal agencies to implement strict rationing procedures. County clerks became responsible for issuing ration books, maintaining registries, and documenting wartime economic impacts. Sheriffs coordinated civil defense drills and blackout tests. County extension agents taught families to preserve food, grow produce, and maintain farm efficiency. World War II also triggered massive migration. Women entering factory jobs. African Americans moving north during the Second Great Migration. Soldiers returning home seeking land, jobs, and stability. Counties found themselves reorganizing services, updating land records, and expanding veterans support. The county government became the local arm of the national war effort, an administrative frontline supporting factories, farms, families, and soldiers. After World War II, the Midwest experienced one of the greatest internal migrations in its history. Returning veterans, new families, and growing industries sparked a suburban explosion. Counties became responsible for zoning suburban subdivisions, approving plats and land development, expanding paved road networks, building sewer and water systems, establishing suburban fire districts, managing population booms in schools, regulating industrial growth, supporting rapidly expanding hospitals. Counties had to balance old rural priorities with new suburban expectations. Farmers wanted road maintenance, agricultural zoning, and tax stability. Suburban families demanded street lighting, garbage collection, emergency services, and modern schools. County governments expanded planning departments, hired engineers, and created zoning commissions to prevent chaotic development. The Midwest landscape changed dramatically. Farmland turned into neighborhoods. 2-lane roads became 8-lane expressways. Small towns became metropolitan suburbs. Regional malls and industrial corridors reshaped tax bases. By 1965, county governments in the Midwest were no longer frontier institutions. They were modern administrative systems guiding the suburban future. As modern society became more complex, counties assumed greater responsibility for human services. Midwestern counties built an entire infrastructure to support child welfare, elderly care, disability services, public assistance, foster programs, mental health services, county hospitals, public guardianship, nursing homes supervision. The federal government often passed laws that counties had to administer, especially in the fields of welfare and healthcare. This era also saw counties establish or expand public health nursing, immunization clinics, school health programs, food safety inspection, environmental health monitoring, family counseling programs, juvenile justice systems. By the 1970s, counties were not just administrative units, they were social institutions, responsible for safeguarding vulnerable populations. Larger counties even built regional health centers and psychiatric facilities. The administrative burden grew. The moral responsibilities grew. The public expectations grew. County governments, once built to serve pioneers, were now managing the complexities of millions of modern citizens. By the mid-20th century, the number of local government units in the Midwest had exploded. Some states had hundreds of townships, dozens of tiny villages, overlapping special districts, separate police districts, independent fire boards. The system became confusing, inefficient, and expensive. A wave of government consolidation efforts emerged. States and counties attempted to merge townships, combine city-county governments, reduce redundant districts, centralize regional planning, standardize budgeting and reporting, modernize county charters. Some experiments succeeded. Indianapolis, Marion County, Nashville, Davidson County, and others adopted consolidated structures, though not in all Midwest states. Even where full consolidation failed, counties gained. Planning commissions, regional transit authorities, unified emergency dispatch, joint health departments, county-wide tax assessment systems. Computers entered county offices in the 1970s and 1980s, revolutionizing property records, budget tracking, voting rolls, criminal databases, court scheduling. Counties became digital administrators, handling larger populations with greater efficiency. The modern county government, data-driven and technologically supported, emerged from this era. Although the Midwest is often remembered as more moderate or less segregated than the South, racial inequality existed everywhere, and counties played a major role in shaping justice, education, and voting rights. During the Civil Rights era, counties became focal points for desegregation of schools, fair housing enforcement, equal access to public buildings, non-discriminatory hiring practices, policing reforms, court oversight of civil rights complaints, redrawing county districts for fair representation. Some counties moved quickly toward fairness. Others resisted change. School boards, often tied to county governments, were ordered to desegregate. Sheriffs were forced to adopt new practices. County judges dealt with voting discrimination cases. Public works departments had to provide equal services to minority neighborhoods. The Civil Rights era changed the moral framework of local governance. Counties could not remain neutral, they had to actively promote equality. This period expanded the meaning of public administration. Counties were not just managers, they were protectors of rights. The Civil Rights Movement left a permanent imprint on Midwest county structures, policies, and culture. By the 1970s, a new public priority emerged: the environment. Counties suddenly found themselves responsible for safeguarding rivers, lakes, wetlands, forests, farmland, air quality, drinking water, waste disposal, soil conservation. The Midwest, with its agriculture, industry, and vast waterways, faced critical environmental challenges. County governments responded by creating environmental services departments, watershed districts, land conservation programs, recycling centers, waste management systems, septic inspection programs, farmland preservation zones, zoning rules to protect ecosystems. At the same time, counties expanded planning departments to manage rapid sprawl. They wrote comprehensive plans, managed land use maps, and required environmental impact studies. County boards became referees between developers, farmers, environmentalists, homeowners, industry, transportation agencies. This era redefined county government as a protector of land, not just a manager of people. From water wells to wetlands, counties became the frontline defenders of the Midwest's natural heritage. As the 20th century ended, county responsibilities expanded again, this time into advanced technology, digital security, and modern public safety. Counties built new justice centers, modern jail facilities, 911 dispatch centers, emergency management agencies, computerized court networks, digital property systems, cybersecurity protocols, electronic voting infrastructure, geographic information systems, GIS. County sheriffs adopted radio communications, computer-aided dispatch, forensic technology, SWAT and specialized units, inter-county cooperation networks, emergency response coordination. County courts digitized case records, court scheduling, payment systems, jury management, document storage. By the early 2000s, county government operated more like a regional corporation than a frontier administration. Old wooden courthouses were replaced with glass, steel, and concrete justice centers, reflecting rising caseloads, population growth, and the complexity of modern law enforcement. Counties entered the 21st century as fully professional, technologically capable institutions. Entering the final decade of the 20th century, county governments across the Midwest faced a new type of administrative pressure: economic transformation. Manufacturing jobs declined as factories automated or moved overseas. Agriculture consolidated into large-scale operations. Healthcare and education rose as primary employers. Technology firms began appearing in urban and rural spaces alike. County governments became the backbone of regional economic development. County boards, development corporations, and regional alliances began working to attract manufacturing plants, logistics hubs, data centers, corporate offices, renewable energy companies, university partnerships, healthcare expansions, retail corridors. Through zoning reforms, infrastructure upgrades, tax incentives, and workforce programs, counties shaped the economic destiny of millions of Midwesterners. Counties also played key roles in business licensing, industrial regulation, job training programs, public transportation coordination, airport and rail district management, broadband expansion. A quiet but powerful shift occurred. County governments were no longer simply maintaining roads or managing records. They were economic architects, designing futures, negotiating investments, and guiding entire regions through uncertain times. The digital age did not merely modernize county government, it redefined it entirely. In the early 2000s, counties began integrating high-speed internet networks, GIS mapping systems, digital land records, online property tax portals, court e-filing systems, video arraignments, surveillance and crime databases, emergency alert systems, digital 911, online voter registration tools, virtual public meetings, especially after 2020. The courthouse, once stacks of ledgers, paper files, and crowded offices, became a digital ecosystem. Property records that once took hours to search now took seconds. Court filings that relied on physical paper became instant. Emergency dispatch used satellite imagery and precise GPS coordinates. County boards conducted live-streamed public meetings accessible to thousands of residents. This digital shift also changed expectations. Residents wanted faster service, transparent data, real-time updates, online forms, digital communication, mobile accessibility. County governments had to keep pace with cybersecurity challenges, data privacy laws, and the growing complexity of tech-driven administration. The Midwest, often underestimated, became a quiet leader in digital county governance, especially in states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio. Public safety responsibilities grew exponentially in the early 21st century. County sheriffs, emergency managers, and public health officers entered new worlds of complexity. Homeland security cooperation, natural disaster response, cybercrime investigation, opioid crisis intervention, mental health emergency teams, multi-county task forces, advanced jail management, school safety partnerships, digital evidence systems, drug trafficking corridors, extreme weather events across the Midwest. Counties developed emergency management centers capable of coordinating floods, tornadoes, chemical spills, disease outbreaks, and large-scale evacuations. Fire districts and EMS units modernized their fleets. County coroner offices expanded forensic capabilities. Public health departments combined medicine, epidemiology, and data science. The sheriff's office, once rural law enforcement, became a hybrid of crisis manager, investigator, community liaison, digital evidence analyst, search and rescue operator. Counties became guardians of regional safety, operating 24/7 systems that few citizens ever see but everyone relies on. The Midwest today is far more diverse than in the past. Immigration from Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East has reshaped rural towns and urban suburbs alike. County governments adapted to serve a more multilingual and multicultural population. They introduced multilingual election materials, interpreter services in courts, cultural competency training, inclusive public health programs, new community outreach teams, diversity-focused hiring, more representative boards and commissions. Counties worked with cultural organizations, faith centers, schools, and nonprofits to ensure fair access to services like healthcare, voting, property records, public safety, education, economic development. Counties became bridges, connecting new residents with longtime communities, balancing old traditions with new identities. This evolution reflects the broader story of the Midwest. A region always shaped by migration, always reinventing itself. Where do counties go from here? The past 200 years prepared them for the next era, one defined by new technologies, new populations, and new responsibilities. Experts predict counties will expand into AI-driven public records, predictive road maintenance, drone-based emergency response, climate change adaptation, smart farmland mapping, renewable energy zoning, autonomous vehicle infrastructure, cybersecurity divisions, telehealth partnerships, housing affordability coordination, mental health integration across departments, cross-county regionalism. Counties may also become more consolidated, more digital, and more collaborative across state lines. One thing is clear: the county government of the future will be more complex, more interconnected, and more critical to everyday life than ever before. The Midwest, once the American frontier, now stands at the frontier of administrative innovation. Counties are not relics of the past. They are engines of the future. From muddy pioneer paths to digital governance, the administrative evolution of county governments in the Midwest is a story of resilience, innovation, and transformation. We traveled through frontier settlement, agricultural revolutions, public health crises, political machines, progressive era reforms, Great Depression struggles, World War II mobilization, suburban expansion, civil rights milestones, digital revolutions, emergency management advances, economic reinvention, modern diversity, future technological horizons. County governments proved adaptable, durable, and essential, whether serving pioneers with wagons or families connected by satellites and broadband. Every courthouse clock tower, every rural road, every zoning map, every election booth, each is a reminder that the Midwest was built not only by farmers, workers, and immigrants, but by the institutions that guided them. County government is not the background of history. It is history. It shapes our lives more than we often notice. And its evolution shows how democracy grows, adapts, and survives. You have now reached the end of this epic exploration. But history never sleeps. And neither do we. Thank you for watching History Without Sleep. If you enjoyed this deep journey into the administrative evolution of Midwest county governments, please like, comment, and subscribe to History Without Sleep, and continue my next video.